Gildan Media proudly presents Gildan Seminars, original lectures containing essential information that can be applied to every facet of life and business.
How to create your own high-paying job. 37 tips for reaching your career goals with Dr. Gary S. Goodman. Introduction and overview. Are you unemployed? Or are you overworked, underpaid, and stuck in a lifeless job, reporting to someone who doesn't seem to be doing much better than you are? You're not alone. Corporations once needed large inflows of middle managers and the formally educated. Many of these posts have disappeared or have been displaced by outsourcing, offshoring, international competition, and by technology. There's a widespread and growing underemployment problem facing almost every society. Many are working at jobs that don't require the experience and schooling that these folks possess. In the United States, up to 44% are underemployed. In Canada, this number's 40%. Though there has been some job growth over the past few years, these jobs are mostly lower paid, without a solid ladder to success. In this original and groundbreaking program, you'll learn how to develop your own highly compensated career opportunities. Specifically, you'll learn new and exciting ways to identify your marketable skills and attributes, translate your strengths into in-demand occupational titles, express your capabilities in results that are highly sought after by today's organizations. Market yourself in several ways as an employee, consultant, coach, vendor, and contract associate. Get paid what you're worth and far more through enhanced negotiation skills. Develop new, highly paid occupational titles that put you into a class by yourself. Learn to overcome the hurdles and barriers of the traditional job market. Use advertised job listings as springboards to better jobs. Reach top executives, presenting yourself and your capabilities at the highest possible levels, and more. First, let's put today's job challenges and opportunities into perspective. Visiting a relative in the hospital, I found myself drained and in dire need of food. I ambled over to the cafeteria, a cheerful place with nice employees. Then I saw something hugely disappointing. The food was almost non-existent. There were 3 pieces of pizza in the carousel, some rice and beans, and a twist or 2 of purplish mystery meat. I vibed the guy in front of me to leave the pepperoni slice alone. It was mine. I was so hungry. I didn't care about the meager offerings. I ate what was there. This is the job market in a nutshell. It is a cafeteria without any food you really want to eat. What it does offer is short on flavor and nutrition, and it doesn't sustain life and limb. You pine for the real thing, but you're so starved that you're willing to settle for jobs as they're presented. Now imagine an alternate reality. You stroll into a fancy big city restaurant. It is elegant inside, and the wait persons are all attentive and respectful. You study the menu, but you don't see anything you desire. So you say to the server, "I'm sure your chef is very capable. Would you please ask him or her to make something special for me? Something from scratch, not from the menu. I'm up for anything tasty, but I do especially like seafood, pasta, and well-done vegetables. I'm sure the result will be very satisfying." These were almost my exact words to a server in Chicago on one of my business trips. The result was a magnificent, fresh meal, an utter surprise and delight to me, to the server, and to the chef. This is the way the job market can be, and the way it actually is for people that know how to navigate it properly. You're not settling for crumbs or for stale leftovers. Everything is fresh interesting and surprising. Savvy people are having off-the-menu experiences all the time, while the mass of humanity is praying the last piece of petrified pepperoni will be there by the time they reach the end of the line. This program will show you how to evolve from grubbing to fine dining. You'll learn how to create your own high-paying job, a job that will be in keeping with your skills and desires, as well as financially rewarding. When you realize that you can call the shots and order a job that'll fit your exact tastes, you'll rise to the top of the food chain and never see the world of work in the same way. I've done this repeatedly over the course of my career, and you can too. One way to do this is to package yourself as a consultant. Let me share with you some of the biggest secrets that management consultants know that you probably don't know. I've been a management consultant for decades, and I've also been an employee at both large and small companies. The differences are many and significant. Consultants are not conventional job hunters, though they're constantly on the prowl for paydays. They may look at classified job ads not as desired positions that they can fill with their labor. They see ads as indications of change, of growth at a given company. To consultants, employment ads are signs that there are bigger and better possibilities in store at those firms. Ads say, "We need help. We can't do everything ourselves or with our current staff." This is a powerful admission. It is the opposite of what you find at smug companies in recessionary times, where they staff the barricades to keep job marauders out. It has been said the wise person creates more opportunities than he is handed. Smart consultants can keep themselves busy with one assignment after another, especially at larger firms that can see their value. So, if they're kept busy and are pretty much always on the payroll, who cares if they're not called permanent employees? That term, permanent employees, is an oxymoron, a contradiction. If the last decade or two have shown anything conclusively, it is the fact that companies shed employees continuously and without guilt. No one is truly permanent, including the chief executive officer. I don't say this to make you cynical or anti-corporate. I point it out to clear up any misunderstandings you might have about the best relationships to form with them. Having an assigned space in the parking lot and an employee badge may feel comforting and give you a sense of routine, but being paid the bigger bucks is more important than these trivial symbols and satisfactions. I don't care what people call me, providing I'm paid and I'm paid well. For the better part of 2 years, I did a consulting project in Houston, Texas. One contract led to the next, and I found it was more convenient, and it actually saved the company money for me to live at the Four Seasons Hotel, renting an apartment suite by the month. At one point, I was the fourth highest paid person at the firm. Because the company was publicly owned, this fact had to be disclosed in its periodic Securities and Exchange Commission filings. This unexpected visibility put pressure on the corporate officers to hire me as an employee. The firm offered a serious six-figure salary, which was less than what I was pulling down as a consultant. I declined, partly because I felt I could earn more and retain my independence by not coming aboard. Plus, I had a much better lifestyle being a temp. I commuted from Los Angeles, and almost 100% of my expenses were paid. Today, I wouldn't care. For whatever reason, if a firm needs to put me on the payroll as an employee and the opportunity is lucrative enough, I'll go with the flow. I'll consent to it. Note that it is common to morph from being a temp to being hired permanently if you start as a consultant. If that is a goal for you, fine, but you may want to disguise it. Starting as a consultant is one way to create your own high-paying job because you're also in charge of its design, especially if you bring your idea to the firm. The fact that you design the work, its locations, hours, is huge, and it can be a financial benefit in itself. I'll detail this advantage later. Consultants look at companies and see problems that need to be fixed. The more valuable the problem, the more value you can get for solving it. Most employees who are not senior managers are not paid to spot these problems or to fix them. Employees are paid to do what is in their position descriptions. They're also handed miscellaneous tasks that their supervisors deem important at the time. Employees, in other words, are hired and paid to execute routines, rule-governed, repetitious tasks. What you need to appreciate is this: if your job can be reduced to a routine, it can be performed by anyone. Then that worker can be replaced by a bit of software or by a robot. High cash value jobs are not routine. Let me give you a personal example of a non-routine opportunity that eventuated in my doing lots of high-paying consulting gigs. I was an assistant professor at a leafy Midwestern university. For many with my academic training, it would have been a dream assignment. It was full-time, permanent. It could have lasted a lifetime because the post was on a tenure track. But I wasn't thrilled with it. I had earned twice as much money, 8 years and 3 college degrees earlier, when I worked in the private sector for Time Life. At the university, suddenly I had to prepare for and teach 4 different classes each semester, work during winters, co-coach the debate team, and run the annual honors conference, lining up dignitaries to participate. I was a great teacher and still am. My evaluations are always stellar, and I have a terrific time speaking before groups. But I ask this question: why don't the best teachers earn a bundle? Shouldn't they make as much as other highly trained and competent professionals? I decided to resign from my post. What I ended up doing was creating my own high-paying job. Within 18 months, that job would pay me more than 10 times what I was earning as a professor. Here's the good part: I still taught through universities, so my credentials weren't wasted in any way. But I wasn't tied down to one campus. I taught at 35 universities simultaneously. I invented my own subject matter. These courses attracted the largest business book publisher in the world, Prentice Hall, Simon & Schuster. They invited me to write a book. Within 5 years, we published 6 titles together, many of which became bestsellers. Later, I would need to redeploy my assets again, creating a high-paying job as a consultant. I'm going to detail for you the mechanics of spotting opportunities, creating your own job, and then selling it to a company, to a school, or to a nonprofit organization. I'll share with you the exact way that you go about creating value as your number one focus. Let me give you a closer glimpse of this now. Sometimes I ask participants in my best practices in negotiation seminars to tell me how much they would gladly pay me if I promised to earn them $2 million. Would you pay me 10% of that, I ask? $200,000? Everyone nods enthusiastically. How about 20%, $400,000? Would that fly? Most are still nodding, some less vigorously. What if I asked for half, for $1 million? Would that be okay? A few participants are still in the hunt, knowing they'll earn $1 million for themselves. I continue the questioning, whittling back the amount they receive until they look puzzled. At that point, they start challenging the value of my proposal. Somewhere after I descend below the 50% point, they perceive the proposition as inequitable, as unfair to them. I have to remind them, look, before I came along, you weren't going to earn anything like what I'm offering, so why wouldn't you take 20% and be happy with it? Having quickly gone from earning 90% of the proceeds and then being urged to accept 20% or a mere 10% flips their value meters. Instead of focusing on their gains, on the fact that they're still ahead, and what they're receiving is still a windfall, they count my money instead. Their goal changes from sharing to preventing me from achieving what seems to be a lopsided gain. This example stands for many things, but for the purpose of showing you how to create your own high-paying job, it signifies this crucial proposition. You can charge what you want for your talents and labor as long as you deliver enough perceived value to someone else. Let me turn this example into a different direction. Let's say I promise to deliver $2 million worth of value, but I will only charge minimum wage to do it. That would seem totally out of sync, correct? You'd quickly doubt my ability to deliver, my sincerity, perhaps my sanity. Nobody gives away that sort of value for something so trivial, correct? If you are going to offer big value, every reasonable person believes you are entitled to get big value in return. Unless, that is, you're called an employee. If I hire you as a minimum wage worker and you come to me with a way to save $1 or $2 million, I'll take your idea, cash it in for its full value, and I may overlook even giving you credit for the idea, let alone paying a bonus or a serious percentage of its value. Companies believe they own everything employees think and do and invent while they're on the job. This is the pact with the devil we make when we seek the security and steady pay of typical jobs. Companies willingly pay what they feel they must pay, and typically nothing more. It is the rare employer that purposely overpays industry averages. If they do, they see a bigger picture. Henry Ford, the automotive entrepreneur, famously inaugurated the $5 day for his assembly line workers. At the time, the prevailing pay for similar work was only $1. Ford's fellow captains of industry excoriated him for his largesse. He would make their wages look depressed by comparison. Ford realized if he offered $5, he could have his pick of the best workers in America. He was correct. They flocked to him from far and wide to fill his jobs. He also knew he was producing a product that needed purchasers. On $5 a day, Ford's employees could live decently and afford to buy a car. Recently, a company in the financial industry in the Northwest pulled a Ford and decided to pay its workers at least $70,000 per year. Its competitors also wailed, feeling the boss was a traitor to his class. But the publicity and goodwill the firm achieved outweighed the minuses. Again, these are rare examples. Being gladly overpaid is unlikely if you're an employee by designation. My point is, you should work at your greatest level of contribution and earn a fair proportion of the value that you confer. How you label your contributions is crucial in justifying higher income. When I discuss the $2 million example I offered above with my seminar attendees, I'm speaking from actual experience. I was charging by the day for my corporate seminars and consulting in the areas of selling and customer service. In doing so, I was limited by how much I could reasonably ask for 6 or 8 hours of classroom time. There were hundreds, if not tens of thousands, of decent speakers that would gladly provide similar services for what I was charging, or less. This invisible hand of potential competition depressed my wages, as long as what people believed they were buying was generic training. But then I created something astonishing. It was a conversational device, a talking path for customer service reps, that would enable them to make phone calls 20 to 30% shorter, but better. If a call center had 100 employees, they could suddenly handle the workflow of a 120-seat center with no added investment in plant and equipment and labor. At an imputed cost of $100,000 per year per seat, I was able to save a 100-seat center $2 million in the first year alone. A full-time trainer on a company's payroll might earn $40,000 to $60,000 per year to conduct seminars. A consultant whose emphasis is training might pull down twice that amount. But someone like me, illuminating an entirely different path to profit via labor savings, could be paid a lot more of that expected $2 million worth of first-year value. I could easily earn $500,000 and up, couldn't I? That is just one fee for one client. You see, I defined value in a way other consultants and on-staff employees didn't. Though it is common to measure average call length, these functionaries didn't know how to abbreviate conversations while making them better. Like the saying, everyone complains about the weather, but no one does anything about it. The challenge is known, but the remedy is not. That is, until I came along. Let's pause for a moment to delve more deeply into that age-old question, what's in a name, especially in an occupational title? For instance, being a trainer is a decent job as far as jobs go. But if you permit yourself to be defined as a trainer, then you'll probably top out in earnings at a fairly low level. It is essential to define yourself differently in a way that the job market doesn't already have a low value peg for. It is a fact of life that companies will define your contribution at the lowest possible level they can get away with. The more your responsibility sounds generic, something anyone can do, the better, as far as they're concerned. If you're an author, someone that writes original articles and books and other potentially high-value products, that's one thing. But in the hands of position description hacks, you will be called at best a writer, but more frequently these days, a content provider. Content is like an empty pail, very plain, made of cheap metal or plastic. As a content provider, you might be paid minimum wage or slightly higher. On top of this, you'll be expected to work quickly and relentlessly, spitting out lots of content under strict, supervised deadlines. Taking charge of your occupational title is happening frequently these days. I mentioned a title that has been around for many decades, CEO, or Chief Executive Officer. Along with the president, this is pretty much the top dog at a company. This title spawned another that was typically adopted by what was known as the company's controller. Some years ago, controllers morphed into chief financial officers, CFOs. A bigger, more prestigious title sooner or later justifies earning bigger and more prestigious pay. This is the main incentive people have for creating better job titles. Plus, and this is crucial, for a time, there is no widespread standard of compensation available. Someone in human resources cannot easily learn what CFOs earn if there are very few CFOs. Which one can compare? That's why right now there is a proliferation of chief titles in corporate America. Vice presidents and senior VPs of sales now seek the title Chief Sales Officer. Heads of PR departments are rebranding themselves as Chief Communication Officers. The list is growing. Some of the justification for seeking a larger job title is that there has been definitely job enlargement in companies, especially since the Great Recession. Jobs have been eliminated, but also merged, so people are wearing several hats while doing double and triple duty, often without more pay. Where you look for high-paying opportunities is very important. Going to sectors where there seems to be lots of jobs is enticing, but it is also where you will find the lowest wages and the most competitors. For example, right now, if you search for sales jobs in Los Angeles, you'll find two types with more listings than others. Jobs are aplenty in solar energy and in merchant credit card processing. I can tell you with utter certainty that these fields are super saturated. The big money may have been in them 2 to 5 years ago, but by now the meal they're serving is old, cold, and pre-chewed. You need to apply some creativity to develop high-paying opportunities for yourself. In the movie Pan's Labyrinth, a girl takes a piece of chalk and draws a door on her wall. She opens it and enters a lavish and amply stocked banquet hall. Some people find the idea of drawing a door where there is none impossible, silly, or useless. Walls are walls, doors are doors. Along with the majority of other job seekers, you may believe every business has a front door, and that's where you need to enter. If you don't use that portal, you'll never get in. There's only one flaw in that scenario. It's the belief that if you use the same old door everyone else uses, you'll gain admittance. That's not reality. Most job candidates are trying to stampede through one tiny opening, typically for one tiny job. I say, if you want to find true treasures and unexpected pleasures, you should draw your own door. Those that do are greeted with banquets instead of crumbs. I'm going to teach you how to open bigger and better doors. Specifically, you'll learn how to reach the top ranks of companies. You'll begin your quest for a higher paying opportunity by getting through to top officers in corporations and other organizations. These are people with the power to hire you and more. They can custom design a position just for you if they are impressed enough with the value you are offering. Here's an example. I spotted a dynamic, growing education company in the classified ads the other day. Obviously, they're scaling up their operations, and from what I could detect, they're profitable. I'm sure they can use my consulting services. Now, let's imagine what's happening. Because of their ad, they're being pummeled with applications, from what I would later be told, thousands of them. This is like a huge crowd that's trying to fit through the eye of a needle. If you're interested in the posted opportunity, which I'm not, good luck creating meaningful differentiation between yourself and the hordes of competing resumes. But what if you could draw a door, an alternative way of introducing yourself, a portal that may be completely inviting and potentially unguarded? You can enter this door when you wish and get a real human being with influence and decision-making power to hear about your credentials and desirability. Better yet, what if this person whose attention you're getting is the head honcho, the president of the firm? That person could invite you to send your resume directly to him or her, and in turn, she would pass it along to the staffer doing the hiring. Topping that, the president might create a special new position just for you. What would your chances be then of getting noticed, eliciting a meaningful interview, and developing a highly paid relationship? You'd jump to the head of the class, wouldn't you? This is what I recommend to people that I mentor. Don't go where there's a crowd and try to stand out among zillions of competitors or lookalikes. Go where there is no crowd and where there is no competition. The ad for that educational company indicated an outsourced entity was doing the hiring. I checked out that firm. I realized communicating with them was a fruitless waste of my time. With a little research, I found the name of the president of the company, his location, his phone number. I called. After selecting a promising voice prompt, I was put through to an extension. "This is Ron," the voice said from the speakerphone. Same name as the president, I thought. It was the president. I went on to pitch him. During that chat, I got his personal email address, and I gave him enough information about me to let him know he was speaking to a force of nature. He said some interesting things such as, "Normally, I don't answer the phone," to which I replied, "The more I call, the luckier I get." I mentioned that I'm the best-selling author of Reach Out and Sell Someone, and you could sell anything by telephone. Now picture this. I'm asserting I'm a genuine expert and he needs one. And I'm proving the point by breaking the rules, getting him on the phone and having a 20-minute meaningful conversation with him. He got a real-time demo, proving I practice what I preach. He'll never forget that call. And the fact that I made my point. I differentiated myself. Everything I do with him from this point will be seen as peer-to-peer because I reached out and sold him on my significance. I'm not an applicant or a supplicant. It's okay to apply for jobs the conventional way, but keep in mind how unlikely it is that 1, you'll get in, and 2, you'll stand out, and 3, you'll earn exceptional pay. Later in this program, I'll share winning scripts and specific techniques you could use to reliably get your information in front of the right people right away. I simply can't wait to share the essential details involved in creating your own high-paying job, partly because it's just that, a creative process that's interesting, adventurous, exciting, and lucrative. This program will help you to take charge of your lifestyle.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?